We began the program tonight an hour ago with the share milker Mary Poteta. Mary and her husband Sorrel were working as share milkers on the Van Leeuwen Dairy Company farm in South Canterbury when they were the first to raise the alarm about animal health. They were really concerned it wasn't mastitis. They pushed and pushed. The local vet joined them and did great work, and all of this led to MPI learning about the presence of Mycoplasma bovis in this country. Almost a year on, Mary and her husband are homeless effectively. They're living out of a caravan in a car in Australia where they're looking for work, and still out of pocket after the herd they were milking was culled.
We're in Victoria, in Sale, in Australia. We had to get off the farm. And we got a letter saying that we must vacate the farm by April. So by March, we had a job offer here in Australia, because in New Zealand, that time of the year, you don't find a job. For share milkers, you don't find jobs in the middle of March. And since then, I bought a caravan on my credit card. I bought a car on my credit card, and we just went for interviews. Travelled from Western Australia to Victoria just for interviews. We just went for interviews. And I can say we did find a position, but it only starts the end of June.
I'm just reading in the New Zealand Herald, Mr. Van Leeuwen talking about how devastating it's been for the Van Leeuwen Dairy Group. He's quoted as saying, "We are struggling at the moment because we notified the disease we are eligible for compensation, but it's a battle, it's not coming through." When it does come through, if it hasn't already, would you expect that some of it would be shared with you?
Well, yes, of course. 22% of the milk production that we would have done must come to us.
Have you received any of that compensation? Have you received what you believe you are entitled to?
Nothing. Joe, nothing. They're going to have to, if MPI doesn't pay up soon, I'll have to declare myself bankrupt.
So that is Mary Poteta talking to us. We screened that interview at length earlier in the program. That's available online. We're delighted to say Geoff Gwyn is MPI's Director of Response and Readiness, and Geoff joins us now. Second time in 2 days you've been on Checkpoint, Geoff, and we're very grateful for your availability. Where are you at? Well, not you, but where is MPI at with compensation for the Potetas?
Look, firstly, John, I do want to reinforce the fact that they did everything right, and you know, they were the ones that notified us of the disease. And look, I'm acutely aware of their circumstances. Look, my view, we've had the claims for some 3 or 4 months, and it has taken too long, and I accept accountability for that. We have paid some 20% of what they've claimed, but there's 80% outstanding. So you can take my assurance I'm working as hard as I can to get the rest paid as soon as possible. But there are some complexities around their claim.
And Geoff, are you there? What are the complexities?
Yeah, sorry. The complexities are their claim is principally around projected losses in milk production, and clearly with fluctuating production levels and milk solid prices fluctuate as well, that makes it somewhat problematic. But they're also in a contractual relationship with a previous employer, which means there are some claims that are intertwined.
Yeah, and I can understand why that is complex. Have you paid the previous employer, the Van Leeuwens, have you paid any of the compensation they are eligible for to them?
We've paid large amounts. I can't discuss individual claims. What I can tell you is we've paid large sums of money, but there are simplistic claims as well, or simpler claims, which are around obviously the culling of animals, which is a far simpler formula. You, in essence, have a valuation done.
Absolutely.
You cull the animal, and that's quite a simplistic process. The Mary and Sorrel are a more difficult situation because their claims are substantially more complex than that.
Okay, but the good news for them is you acknowledge it's taken too long, and you are going to do something about it to facilitate the appropriate payment as soon as possible.
That's what I intend to do, John, and as I said, I take accountability for the delays to date. We are working as hard as we can, but it has taken longer than I would have liked. It's
a perverse outcome, isn't it? Because they did great work. As you said at the beginning of this interview, they did everything right, and they pushed and pushed. At first it was thought it was mastitis, it wasn't, they went back. They couldn't have behaved better as whistleblowers, and perversely they have been financially punished for this. They've lost their livelihood, they've lost their home, they are now trying to scrape together a living in Australia. So is there a way we can better protect whistleblowers in this situation?
Well, I think there's two parts to it, John. I mean, obviously we will pay compensation for verifiable loss as a result of what we have done under the Biosecurity Act. I think some of the challenges faced by people in Mary and Sorrel's position is their relationships with their employers as well. And unfortunately, that's an area MPI can't influence to any great extent.
One final question, you may not want to answer it, but Gypsy Day, June 1st, which is a week tomorrow, and we've had people on Checkpoint last week, and it was fascinating for me as a townie, because I wonder why the hell do so many cows move at the beginning of winter? Well, they move because they're going for winter feed, right? Beet fodder, swedes, root crops. So you can't stop them from moving, because if you do, they won't eat, and there are animal welfare concerns there. But boy, oh boy, this is a disastrous time to have Gypsy Day, isn't it, with Mycoplasma bovis about. Is this part of MPI's response, or is this what the government's looking at on Monday?
Well, I think, John, you've got to keep this in context. There's some 11,670 dairy farms throughout New Zealand. We have regulatory controls on a little under 300 of them. So in the grand scheme of things, that is not a huge amount. So we believe by having those locked under regulatory control, we've mitigated the risk to its lowest level. So there should be a level of confidence for farmers, as long as they apply some simple precautions, that they can trust movements from farms that aren't under regulatory control.
How many farms have you got under regulatory control now?
Yeah, it's a little under 300.
Okay, right. Thank you so much.
Again, it's in the context of nearly 12,000 dairy farms.
Just one final question, because I guess Mary will be listening to this. When do you think the pot eaters, or Mary and Sorrel, will get their money?
Look, I would love to give her a date, but I can't do that. All I can tell her is I am working my hardest to get that claim out the door. Look, I'll be honest with you, John, this is the thing I lose sleep about in my job. I understand, we're trying to do the right thing by the national herd and protect New Zealand, but there's always those at the sharp end of our decisions, and it's those that I worry about the most. So Mary and Sorrel, if you are listening, I would take a personal interest in your claim and do everything I can to progress it.
Geoff Gwyn, who is the Head of Readiness and Response for MPI, joining us live on the phone there. We really appreciate it.